What is going on, guys and gals? It's your boy Jason coming back with another video. This video is going to be a lot different. We're just going to have a conversation today. I know I haven't posted in a while. I haven't given much updates on what's going on with the trucking company. You know, I've been very busy, like we're going to get into, but I want to make this video today and go over what the title says. You know, business sucks. You know, another way to put it, entrepreneurship sucks. And I know there's a lot of glamour that comes around the name entrepreneur, and a lot of us want to become entrepreneurs because we want to have freedom. We don't want to work for the man. We want to either be the man or just be able to work when we want to and be able to be home with our families and raise our children and have financial freedom. I think that's a goal that everybody has, is to be financially free. You know, at the end of the day, not all of us want to be millionaires or billionaires or whatever. You know, there's no need for that really. It's just to be financially free, be able to provide for our families, but also have time to be with our families. You know, and that's always been, you know, my goal as an entrepreneur. I started the trucking company back in 2020 with a friend of mine, and you know, through the last 5 years, we've had the opportunity to dabble in pest control and pressure washing and really try to find what avenue is going to provide that freedom. And I think that's what entrepreneurship is, finding an avenue that provides freedom in our lives, produces income for us and others, but also it's passion-based, right? None of us want to be doing something that we don't want to do. That's a big, I feel like human nature, that's pretty common thing to say. But over the last 5 years, I have been put in a lot of tough situations. I've been put in the most debt I've ever been in my life. I've, you know, had to burn bridges, had to build new bridges, had to rely on other people. And I've been brought to the brink of tears, and I've been brought to tears multiple times just with the stress of it all. You know, I'm a big guy. I'm 6'2", you know, 300 pounds, and you know, I'm a big burly dude with a big beard. You know, just imagine me crying to my wife, or just crying in general, right? You know, crying, I know sometimes we look down on crying, but crying hits a great emotion, guys. You need to let something out, let it out, open up, you know. And I'll tell you one thing that builds your bond with your wife more than anything is just sitting down and crying. I'm not joking, guys. I'm not joking. It's hard times. But, you know, through these last 5 years, I've learned so much that you cannot learn from school. There's no chance, there's no school out there that's going to teach you what's learned. And that's what you're going to see in entrepreneurship a lot of times. Even when you fail, guys, you are going to learn something. And it's up to you to take that knowledge that you've learned and turn it into wisdom. Apply it to your business and apply it to your life. I was very, very naive back when I was 23 years old. I'm 28 years old today. Very naive. And I don't believe that being naive is completely a bad thing. I think, you know, having that kind of burning desire to make something happen and running fast with something and just giving it everything you have, there's a lot of benefits that come from that. But as you fail and as you get in tight positions, you start realizing, oh, you know, I didn't know this. I needed to learn this. You know, but then you have to then realize, hey, I have to apply this to myself or to my business. Okay, I can't let this lesson just go on deaf ears. I can't let that happen. I have to apply what I've learned to my business. You know, change things if I need to change things, right? And part of that has to do with major changes, right? Somebody might call it giving up. And it's not about giving up in the fact that, like, I'm closing everything and I'm giving up. I'm throwing in the towel and I'm going to just play video games all day. No, I think, you know, there are big changes that might have to happen to say, hey, this is not, you know, going the way that we thought it would go. We put a lot of time into this. We put a lot of money into this. You know, at what point do we cut our losses and say, hey, it's time to go a different route? Or, hey, it's time to put ourselves in a different place. And I've been in positions, not just with trucking, but other companies, where you get to that point. Or it's even worse when you get to that point, but you can't actually get out of it because you might have too much debt wrapped up. You might have other things going on. Whatever that case might be, that's a very tough situation to be in. And I've been in those situations as well. You know, when I was focusing on the trucking company as much as I could and giving it everything I had, we grew to about 7 or 8 trucks. You know, at our peak, we were doing $160,000 to $200,000 a month in revenue. You know, and I built that from my bedroom at my sister's house. You know how crazy that sounds? I built that from the bedroom in my sister's house. And you look at those numbers, you think, oh my gosh, that's a lot of money. You know, that's so much money. And it is a lot of money to generate in a month. You look at a service-based business, or another business that maybe you're selling things online, you have that much revenue, you might be considered a big player in whatever business that is. If I was doing $200,000 a month in pest control, I mean, that's a big pest control business. Trucking, obviously, you can make a lot more money, but the part that people don't talk about is how much more money you actually spend. We've got vultures flying everywhere. You might do $200,000 in gross revenue one month, but you might spend $190,000 to do it. Or you might spend $205,000 to do it. How bad would that be? How terrible would that be, guys? I've been there before. I've had great months, but the expenses, something happens you weren't ready for, something happens you were ready for, but it still hurts you and puts you in a place where you're actually in the negative. And that is a difficult situation to be in, guys. I've had trucks break down that have cost me personally $10,000. The trucking company didn't have the money. I had to come up with the money to put it up. And you figure these things out, right? You get put in these situations, you don't fold, but you have to look down your different avenues. You have to see what needs to happen today to get through this situation. And then once you're through the situation, because the thing you have to understand, guys, you're gonna get through the situation. No matter what problem it is in your business, you're gonna get through it. It's gonna happen. But it just depends on what are you gonna be left with once that problem is solved? Where are you gonna be once that problem is solved, right? There always is a solution, but the solution doesn't always look the best for you personally or for your family. And that's where you have to limit risk, right? You have to delegate risk. That's something that's very important. You can't have, you and your family up on the chopping block all the time. And I've been in that position, before I got married, I felt okay with a lot of risk. I was like, I can take upon this risk because it's all on my shoulders. But once you get married, once you start actually buying assets, you start actually buying property, you start actually, putting money into things, then it's like, whoa, I have a lot more to lose, right? And not only am I at risk, my wife is at risk. Once you have kids, like, inherently your kids are going to be at risk too. And you don't want to put your family in that position, right? So no matter what business you're in, you have to delegate risk, guys. You have to limit risk. You have to make sure that you're insured, from a real level of physical financial insurance and from another level of insurance when it comes to what happens when everything hits the fan. And I'm trying to say less, but I've been put in many of those situations, guys, and I've been blessed to be able to go through that, get through it, learn from it, and apply it, right? And that has changed, my mindset and changed the way that I view a lot of different things. When we first started trucking, we thought, we can have a good profit margin. It's like, at least 25%, at least 30%. But ever since I've started trucking, guys, I've only seen the highest profit margin I've seen is roughly about 12% is a high profit margin. You might say, well, 12% of $1 million, that's a good amount of money. That's 120 grand. It is a good amount of money. But 12%, if that's the best profit margin that you're going to see, guys, you're not going to see that a lot. Most months you're going to run into something, the truck's going to break down, you're going to have some sort of an issue, whatever the case may be, and it is going to destroy those margins. So when you go into business, guys, no matter what business you want to go into, if you're going to become an entrepreneur, you need to understand the numbers. You need to understand the margins. You might go into a business like pest control, and I love pest control. I've been putting a lot of effort into pest control lately because the margins are very good. You go into pest control, they say, hey, profit margins are 40%, 45%. Well, best case scenario, they are 45% or 40%. But I'm not banking on best case, guys. When you're in a business, entrepreneur, when this stress is on your shoulders, when you're putting your family at risk, you do not bet on best case. Do you understand me? Don't bet on best case. If it happens, it happens. But what's the worst case? I'll tell you what the worst case with trucking is. 2%, 0%, negative 5%. Worst case pest control, 25%, guys. But you know what 25% does for me? You know what 25% does for my family? That covers us, guys. 25%, if that's worst case scenario, is there ever going to be a time, which there definitely can be, where I'm going to be on the chopping block, right? Where my finances are going to be up for grabs. And you think about that and you're like, oh, well, there is, slight chance anywhere with any business, and that's completely true. But I'm telling you, with trucking, that risk is a lot higher, guys. That risk is a lot higher because, one, the margins aren't as good, and two, you just have a ton of risk. So many things can go bad all the time. And I think as you start a business or get into a business or learn about a business, you have to be able to weigh these things before you say, hey, I'm going to give myself, I'm going to send this as hard as I possibly can. And I'm not trying to stop anybody from doing that, because at the end of the day, that's the only way I was able to build a trucking company, was full sending it, guys. You know, full going on YouTube, watching videos, talking to people that knew more than me, joining Facebook groups, you know, learning from people, finding people that I can rely on for information. I know a lot of you guys have relied on me for information, and that humbles me, guys, and I'm able to help you. And I hope that when you listen to these videos and you might ask for a consultation, whatever the case may be, you know that I'm just going to give it to you straight. Because the one thing I do not want any of us to do, even my worst enemy, I don't want them to put themselves in a terrible position because they did not take the time or effort to learn what they needed to learn before they got into it. But at the end of the day, like I said, guys, you're going to need a piece of that when it comes to being an entrepreneur. You're going to need that fire of saying, hey, I'm going to figure this out, I'm going to get this done, and I'm going to deal with the consequence. But as your company grows and as you have more on the line, the debts get bigger, the monthly revenue gets bigger, your expenses get bigger, your risks are going to get bigger, guys. They're going to get bigger, and you need to be prepared. You need to be prepared. And you're going to be put in situations you don't have the answer to. But you're going to figure the answer out. You are. You know why you're going to figure the answer out? Because you're going to have to. No one else is going to do it for you. And that is the demon of entrepreneurship, guys. That's the depth of it. That's I don't even know what word to use. That is whoa, don't go off the road. That is the cornerstone to it all, is that you're going to have to figure it out, because nobody else is going to figure it out for you. When you're doing a 9 to 5, when you're working for somebody, they make the decisions, they deal with the consequences, you just do what they say. And you get paid a weekly salary, you get paid a weekly paycheck, you use that money to provide for your family. When you're doing entrepreneurship, you deal with the consequences, you make the decisions, you take whatever money's been made. You might have enough to pay for your family, you might not, you might have a lot to pay for your family, you might have none to pay for your family. You might have 1 month where you made $5,000, everything's going great. You might have the next month where you want to end yourself, you want to get out of this, you want to stop doing it. Because why? Because this is a bad month. And you think, oh, all of this is going to heck. There's no stability, guys. There's no stability. Everything can change day in and day out. One day you can be doing solid, the next day you can be just on the doorstep of business foreclosure. And that's entrepreneurship, guys. That is entrepreneurship. Now, I love you guys, and I thank you guys for being, a part of this channel. The trucking company's still going. It's not going to stop going, guys. Trucking company's still going. I got Ray on the road. He's doing great. We got great fuel card, great factoring, great insurance, all of these great things that we've built over the last years. Now we can kind of reap the rewards of that. But also, I don't have any trucks because my truck broke down in January and cost me $10,000. But Ray's on the road. Trucking company's going good. Pest control, putting a lot of effort into that, growing it good. Everything's good there. Being a minister for the local church, that's awesome. I love it. It's a calling for me. It's not a job. Life is good, guys. But life is good with dealing with all of the stress, with dealing with all of the problems that pop up. When it comes to business, your life can still be good, guys. If your business will never be perfect, you will always have problems. I look at all these major companies, guys, and you look behind the veil that they kind of throw up, and it's just chaos a lot of times, right? People that hate their lives, managers that don't want to be there, and it's just problems on problems. I've had the opportunity to see the inside of a lot of major companies, and it's chaos. And that's what it is, because business in general is chaos. You have to build good systems, guys. And then when you grow and get bigger, you got to reform those systems to work better at a bigger scale. And you're going to have more employees, and more employees are going to have more problems. And it is a battle, guys. But it's a good battle, and you can reap good rewards, and you can learn a lot. But be ready to take upon yourself the risk that you're putting yourself in. Not only for yourself, though, but for your wife, for your kids, or if you're a woman, for your husband, for your kids. But just be ready for that, guys. I love you guys. Thank you guys for watching this video, and I hope you all have a great day.